All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to be learning Parashat Emor. We are sponsored tonight by the Sa'idian family. Le'ilui Nishmat Shmuel ben Chizkiah. May his neshama go higher and higher in Gan Eden. May he be a melitz yosher for his family and for all of Klal Yisrael. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so we're in Parashat Emor, which is all the laws of the Kohanim, the different laws that we've been discussing since the beginning of the week about all of the rules that the Kohanim have, who they can marry, the fact that they cannot become tameh except for their 7 relatives, and the idea that they have a whole lot of different rules. You know, it's hard when people are unaware of the rules. It's kind of heartbreaking sometimes. You have to tell somebody that the person that they're dating, they can't marry them. You know, I've had to do that. That has occurred to me actually more than once. You have a person that is actually seriously dating somebody, and they are unaware of the fact that a Kohen, let's say for example, can't marry a convert. Right? That is a serious problem. You know, she could be a completely 100% kosher convert. She's Jewish in every sense of the word, like more Jewish than me and you. But the rule is that a Kohen can't marry her. I've had to do that, unfortunately. That I've had to break up a relationship because they couldn't get married to each other. Matter of fact, there was once a guy that was very interested in a female who was divorced, and he was very much into her and excited, and he wanted to date her. And I told him, listen, she's divorced. You're a Kohen. You can't marry her, right? There are differences between Kohanim and everybody else. And it's important to understand, that's what I was expressing the other day, the idea that these rules and these quote-unquote limitations, the way to view it, that what Rav Moshe Feinstein said so beautifully in his Sefer Darash Moshe, is that these are not limitations, but rather these are privileges. That's the way to view it. These are not things that are supposed to be, oh no, this is holding me down. This is holding me back from doing what I want to do. To the contrary, it's a privilege to be in this status. That's why the Torah says what we have in the Parashat, V'kidashto. V'kidashto means you must sanctify the Kohen. That means that there's a mitzvah for him to go first. That's why, for example, the Kohen goes up first to the Torah, because of the fact that we have a mitzvah, Baruch haba, Baruch haba. We have a special mitzvah to sanctify the Kohen, right? So that is a very important thing that we must do. Now, being that that's the case, the Torah says you have to sanctify him, so he gets the first aliyah. He's a Kohen, he gets the first aliyah. There's actually, believe it or not, I saw some people want to say that if you have 2 perushim, again, this is not the halacha, this is not what we follow, but it's just to understand the thought. On the side of the Shulchan Aruch, which is the code of Jewish law, there are 2 commentaries. One is the Taz, the Torah Zahav, and one is the Shach. The Shach was written by a Kohen, Siftei Kohen, that's the name of his book. Shach stands for Shin Chav, Siftei Kohen. So somebody suggested you should learn the Shach before you learn the Taz, because he's a Kohen. So again, it's like an interesting thing. We don't actually do that. Matter of fact, we learn the Taz first because he was before the Shach. But at the same time, the point is you have to sanctify the Kohanim because they have a special job, a different type of job than everybody else. And the key is to remember that it's not a burden, but rather a privilege. And that's actually an important lesson for all of us being Jews. Because when we have restrictions that we have to follow, many times people see them as burdens. You look at the mitzvot, 613, God forbid, burdens. That's not the right way to look at it, but rather 613 opportunities to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why I remember with that infomercial, if you remember, with the gentleman who put out the kosher switch. Remember that? Right? With the laser that turns on, that if you flip it So then it doesn't happen automatically, but eventually, something will. Yeah, whatever. The point is, the infomercial that the fellow had was trying to portray Shabbat as a problem. I'm sitting here in my living room, and all of a sudden the lights turned off, and now I can't read anything anymore. And now with my technology and my this and my that I know, we have to come up with a solution. What?
A lot of people say it.
So again, so you're looking at Shabbat as a problem, as something which is an issue for you. But if you have the proper attitude, you never want Shabbat to end. If you understand that, like Hashem said, Matana tova yeshli bebet gnazai v'Shabbat shma. I have a special gift in my treasure house, and its name is Shabbat. And he tells Moshe, go tell the people, I'm giving them this very special gift, because it is really the most special gift. If a goy keeps Shabbat, chayav micha, he gets a death penalty. A goy is not allowed to keep Shabbat, right? He's not entitled to it. Shabbat is for Jews only. It's a very important thing to understand, that what we sometimes tend to look at as a problem, as a burden, is actually the biggest privilege ever. That's why the pasuk starts off with this famous question. Vayomer Adonai Moshe, Emor el hakohanim b'nei Aaron, ve'amarta alehem, ve'nefesh lo yitama be'amav. So everybody asks, why the double language? Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Hashem tells Moshe, Emor el hakohanim b'nei Aaron. Tell the kohanim b'nei Aaron, right? Ve'amarta alehem, and then you will tell them. Why the double language? What's the reason that you have to repeat it? So I saw somebody say something beautiful. He says, what do you have to tell the kohanim? Emor el hakohanim b'nei Aaron. First of all, you have to tell them who they are. Teach them. They are not the average Joe. They are b'nei Aaron. They come from Aaron. That's the first thing you have to tell them. That in order for proper chinuch to register on the child, you have to first of all explain to him, listen, you're not everybody else. You're not the rest of the world. You are b'nei Aaron. You are special. You're the sons of Aaron. You are people that have to conduct yourselves differently than everybody else. Everybody else is going to go to the funeral. You're not going to the funeral. Everybody else could marry this lady, that lady. You can't marry that lady. Why? You're b'nei Aaron. You're a different set of people, right? And that will register. That will make them understand we're different. Abotai, the same thing applies to all of us as Jews. They try to make us think, like it says, Kichol ha'amim bet Yehuda. That everybody, that the whole Jewish nation should be just like all the other nations out there. Abotai, nothing could be further from the truth. We're very, very different from all of those goyim.
Right? Are you saying that anyone who has the last name Kohen is somehow connected to Aaron?
Anybody who is a Kohen is a descendant of Aaron, yes.
They have the last name Kohen and they're Kohen, no?
Usually, I mean, yeah, there are exceptions to the rule. Some people have a last name Kohen, and for some reason they're not Kohanim. But yeah, I
used to buy.
What?
In Iran, there was places used to sell them.
Oh, that I haven't heard of. Wow, that they would sell Kula, I don't know. But yeah. So it's possible, unfortunately, that there was some kind of misconduct with that. But for the most part, I don't think that people.
Check it with the DNA.
I don't think most people messed with that. What?
People have to buy other people's Kohanim rights.
You can't do that. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. Bar minan, there is no such thing. A Kohen has to be direct descendant from Aaron and from his children. That's it. Now, Dr. Chadley, you have something to say?
No.
Oh, sorry, I thought you wanted to say something. Okay, very good. Okay, so that's the idea. The reason that I'm bringing this up, Rabotai, is because right now, I mean, I don't know if this hit you guys, but there was in our own district over here, in the Great Neck High School. Did you see what happened this, I don't know, it was yesterday or today or something? They had somebody was invited to perform, and it was a male, and I don't even want to mention what this person did with all of this stuff. And it could be he's even Jewish, and he performed like a female in very provocative ways. Rabotai, they're trying to make us like the goyim. You understand? They're trying to bring all of that stuff into our lives into our face. In your face, we're going to show you this is what we do here. And Rabotai, we have to be strong. We have to be very strong to realize, just like it says, Bnei Aaron, you have to remember who you are. You're the sons of Aaron. Well, guess what? Am Yisrael is Bnei Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and we have our values, we have our beliefs, and we have to hold on to them very, very tight and remember that we're not the same. We don't believe in those things. We disagree with those things, and we have to respect our beliefs, Abutai. It's very important to be strong on these matters, not to be wishy-washy. Abutai, you follow what I'm saying or no? I'm bringing it up because it's important. This is really, they're bringing the battle to our home territory. It's important to be aware, Abutai. Okay, fine. So we continue. And like I said, it is something which is a little bit of a problem. Sometimes a person loses a parent, let's say he's a Kohen, right? He can't go on the yard side to the grave. He can't, right? It's something which, what?
What's the reason he cannot go?
He cannot become tameh. He cannot become impure by being over other people's graves. So these are things which are, difficult sometimes, but he has to view it as a privilege.
So what happens if his parents, or God forbid, pass away or something?
So for that, he can go.
He can go
To his, God forbid, any one of the 7 relatives: father, mother, son, daughter, brother, sister, wife, God forbid. Right? Well, he becomes tameh for them, but he can't go back for the yard site. Okay, now, Abutai, I want to focus a little bit about the tremendous mitzvah that we're actually all presently involved in right now, the mitzvah of Sfirat HaOmer and Korban HaOmer, which actually come up in this week's parasha. In the parasha, it tells us that the day after Pesach, there was a mitzvah to do what's called Korban HaOmer, right? Korban HaOmer is an offering of barley, okay? Let's read it inside. It says, when you come to the land that I'm giving you, Hashem says, you will harvest its harvest. And Omer literally, I believe, means a bundle, right? Making Omer is to make a bundle of either wheat or barley, right? So over here in this pasuk, the Torah is telling us that you have to take this, which you are cutting down, which you're harvesting from the field, and you bring it as an offering. So v'havetem et omer eshit kitzirchem el hakohen. Ve'enif et omer lifnei Adonai l'rotzonechem imachod haShabbat yenifenu hakohen. So the kohen has to take this bundle. Now we know that this is a bundle of barley, right? So he has to take this bundle of barley and he has to wave it. Yenifenu hakohen. And the Gemara tells us, what does it mean he has to wave it? He has to go molich umevi, ma'aleh umorid. He has to bring it forward and backward, right? Ma'aleh, lift it up, lift it down, right? So says Rashi, molich umevi la'atzor ruchot ra'ot. He lifts it, he moves it forward and brings it back to stop bad ruchot, bad winds. Ma'aleh umorid, he lifts it up and down, la'atzor telalim ra'im, to put an end to the bad dew that might come from Shamayim. So he's really doing something in order to help the whole Klal Yisrael, the whole nation. Now, when does he do this? Mimachorat haShabbat. He has to do it after Shabbat. Now, what does it mean, Shabbat? Says Rashi, Mimachorat Yom Tov Harishon Shel Pesach. So after the first day of Pesach. She'im ata omer Shabbat Bereshit, ata yodea ezehu. So it's not talking about literally Shabbat, it's talking about the first day of Yom Tov. Okay? So he has a mitzvah to bring this Korban HaOmer. V'asitem b'yom hanivchem et HaOmer, keves tamim ben shnato le'olah la'Hashem. So on that day, you also have to bring a keves, a sheep. Okay. So we have this special mitzvah. Now, why is this so significant, Rabotai? What becomes permitted once you bring the Omer? All of the 5 grains that grew throughout the previous year, which were prohibited to eat, that's what we would call chadash. And once you bring the Korban HaOmer, now it's called Yashan. Gentlemen, are we familiar with this? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Baruch Hashem, somebody. So well, I'll just go through it briefly. The idea is there's something in Torah, believe it or not, when you grow a grain in the land of Israel, according to all opinions, you may not eat that if it's one of the 5 grains, wheat, oats, spelt, barley, and rye. Those grains, when they grow, are treif, like pig. What? 1 second. They're treif like pig, literally treif, like eating pig. Okay. However, 100%, it's malkut. It's isur 39 lashes. Now, I'm telling you, that's what it says. When does it become mutar? When they bring korban haomer, and now it all becomes permissible. So when they bring korban haomer, or nowadays, unfortunately, we don't have Beit HaMikdash, so it's the day that the korban haomer would have been brought. At that day, it becomes permissible. We wait a day later because of the rabbinic rule. But the point is that the day after Pesach, that's when all of what we call chadash means new grains that grew, they all become now yashan, which means old, and now you're allowed to eat it, right? Outside of Israel is a different question. When a goy grows something outside of Israel, so that famously the opinion of the Bach was that it's permissible to eat it even though it's chadash, right? That's a different story. I'm talking about in the land of Israel. In the land of Israel, when a Jew grows something, what? Now, any product that you buy in the land of Israel with a hechsher on it, by default means it's yashan.
But that's something.
No, I'm not talking about here. I'm not talking here. I'm saying in Israel. Right now, let's focus on Israel. In Israel, any pita bread that you buy, any vafla, anything that a cookie, doesn't matter. It by default, if it has a hechsher on it, it's yashan. Why? If it has a hechsher on it, if it has a kashrut on it, automatically you know it's yashan. Why? Because if it was grown from this year and it's before Pesach, so then automatically it's treif. You can't eat it. It's isur d'oraita according to all opinions. Something that most people don't know for some reason. But what? I'm saying that what I'm trying to say is that in Israel, Baruch Hashem, the Rabbanut and all these, they take care of this. You don't have this problem. The question that everyone wants to know is, what about outside of Israel? Outside of Israel, does this rule still apply if, let's say, a Goyish company makes grains or not? That's a different question. I'm not going into that. So the OU, let's say, or any big agency, they will certify products that are chadash because they were grown by Goyim outside of Israel, and the Bach was of the opinion that it's not a problem. Okay? That's why, you understand? I wasn't talking about here. I was talking about Israel, which is 100%.
So why does it over here?
What? No, because over here the question is, according to some, the very same rule that applies in Israel applies here too. And according to some, it's isur d'oraita as well. I remember at my l'chaim, when I got engaged, so my Rabbi Belsky, came to the l'chaim, and the first thing that he asked me was, is everything here yashan? Is everything, like he wanted to make sure everything here is yashan, that it's not, tell them Baruch Hashem, everything is yashan. Because he was very strict on it, even though he was the Rav of the OU. But for himself, he was very personally strict. He would only eat yashan. Okay, that's a different question. But that's the halachic significance of the Korban HaOmer. Once they bring Korban HaOmer, now you can eat. Yes, you can eat all of what was chadash now becomes yashan, and now you can have it. Okay, fine. What?
We do this once a year in Israel.
Right. So right now, for example, everything is yashan. Every grain, every bit of grain that is out there is yashan because there's no shalom aleichem. There is no way that you can grow something from Pesach till now. It takes time. You have to plant it. You have to do the whole thing. So, later on this spring, they have what they call spring wheat, but that's the earliest grains that could have grown. Okay, fine. That's a different subject. The question that I want to deal with is one very interesting question. We count now, we're in the middle of Sfirat HaOmer. The question is like this. Omer, okay, is a measurement. It's a measurement of volume, okay? Ve'omer asirit ha'efahi, okay? That means that Omer is 1/10 of an ephah. It's like I'm talking to you about, let's say I talk to you about a liter, I talk to you about a gallon, I talk to you about a quart, a pint. An Omer is a certain volume. It's X amount. What? So we hold that asirit ha'ephah is like, according to many, like 5 pounds, right? Okay, that's the Omer. Good. It's a size. It's a certain volume. But the question that you have to ask yourself is, why would you call a korban ha'omer? Call it korban haseorim, which means barley. Call it korban, I don't know, you want to talk about Shavuot, korban, it's on the way to Shavuot, we start counting. Why would you call the name of the korban ha'omer? It's like saying the sacrifice of the pint sacrifice, the quart sacrifice. It's an interesting thing. That's the first question. Okay, next question is, why does it have to be on the second day of Pesach? We just read a second ago. Shalom Aleichem, welcome. Why does it have to be on the second day of Pesach? We just got finished saying.
Why you call
What?
Why you call
Because it was a korban of barley. They took barley, they bundled it together, right? And then the Kohen would wave it. Front, back, up, down, he would wave it. So that's it's a korban. No, but you can have korban that's not on mizbech. Korban mincha is not on mizbech. There are different korbanot that are not on mizbech. But the point is that this is something that's part of the service of Bet HaMikdash, and we're calling it the korban of a volume, the pint, the quart, the gallon, the 2 liter. It's the 2 liter. It is that. It's interesting. That's number one. Number two, why does it have to be like it says, mimachorat Shabbat, from the day after the first day of Pesach? So why not bring it the first day of Pesach? Why does it have to be the second day, meaning the second night of Pesach? What's the purpose of that? That's another important question. What?
From second day.
What? I know. The question is why? Count from the first day. If we're starting to go towards Shavuot, right? So we got redeemed on the first day of Pesach. Start Omer, first day of Pesach. Start what? Why would you do it on the second day? Right?
Omer is a material.
No, Omer is a volume. It's a volume. It's 1/10 of an ephah. It's a certain amount of volume. So the question is, why would you name it like that? That's number one.
But you cannot do it with money.
No, I'm not talking money. It's not no money.
Yeah.
It's like a bowl. It's a measurement. A bowl of this, a pint, a quart, a gallon. So why would you name it that? That's the first one. Okay, that's number one. Yeah.
Aren't you doing korban pesach on the first day?
You are doing korban pesach on the first day. Okay, so that's a very nice suggestion. Believe it or not, the Sefer HaChinuch says something similar to what you said, and we'll get to that in a minute. But that's question number 2. Question number 3 is the following. Question number 3 is, I'm going to read to you a midrash. This is the midrash in Parashat Kafchet Midrash Rabbah on this week's Parashat. It says like this: Leolam al tihi mitzvat omer kala benecha. Never think that the Omer, the sacrifice of the Omer, is a light thing. Don't take it lightly. Why? Because of mitzvat Omer, Avraham merited to get the land of Israel. Because it says, "V'atayit briti tishmor," you have to keep my covenant. Ve'ezeh, what is the covenant? Mitzvat Omer. You have to do the Omer. Because of the Omer, Avraham got Israel. What in the world is
Abraham counted the Omer. We didn't ever see the Torah at the time.
I'm telling you, Abraham got the land of Israel because of the fact that his offspring will eventually bring the Korban HaOmer. That's number one. Number two, Where else is there an offering of barley, Rabotai? Who knows? Where else is there an offering of barley? Who knows? Who brings an offering of barley? Anybody? Yes. Let's hear it. Who brings an offering of barley? Isha Sota. That's right. An Isha Sota. A woman who's a Sota. The reason that a woman who's a Sota brings a korban of barley, her situation was that her husband had warned her not to be secluded with a certain man. And unfortunately, she was secluded with that man. Witnesses saw them be locked in a room. They don't know if anything happened, but they know she was locked. She's not permitted to her husband until she drinks the waters of the sotah, which is the parchment of the whole paragraph of the sotah. They erase it, put it into water with the dirt of the mishka of the Bet HaMikdash there, and they offer up an offering of barley. Why? The Gemara says because barley is considered to be, at the time at least, it was considered to be animal food, and her deed, the fact that she was secluded with another man in a locked room when her husband warned her not to be, that's an act like an animalistic act, and therefore she brings animal food, barley. But the whole purpose of the process, if she goes about it and drinks the waters of the sotah, and she's found, Baruch Hashem, to not have done anything, they were playing Monopoly for an hour, right? So then what happens is that she is blessed and she has a big bracha, right? So the whole korban over there is for what purpose? To bring peace between husband and wife. So over here says the Gemara that She'al Yedei Mitzvat HaOmer Asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalom Ben Ish LeIshto. Hevei Omer B'zchut Kemach Seorim. This is the idea of the barley offering that was given up for this woman. So over here says the Midrash that the Omer brings peace between husband and wife. It's amazing. Now, Rabbi Rabbi Simon ben Levi, this was what saved the Jews during the time of Gidon. Gidon was a shofet. He was a leader of the Jewish people in the time of the judges. And it says over here that saved Gidon. Guess who it also saved? Says the Gemara, it also saved Mordechai in the time of Haman. It says when Mordechai was studying with his students, what were they learning? They were learning the mitzvah of the Omer. So says the Midrash, what saved Mordechai and Haman? Mitzvah to Omer. So it's an amazing thing. You have to ask yourself, what is so special about this barley offering that it saved Mordechai, it saved Gidon and his people, brings peace between husband and wife, it got Avraham Eretz Yisrael, and the list goes on, by the way. It says, in the time of Chizkiyahu, the Jewish people were almost wiped out. How did they get saved? B'zchut korban ha'omer. Hevei omer zu mitzvat ha'omer. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Korban ha'omer, korban ha'omer. And you have to ask yourself, what is the big deal? It saved everybody. So over here, I saw all these questions in a beautiful sefer called Be'er Yosef. He brings up all of these questions. Again, let's just recap quickly. He's the one, he says over here like this. Number one, why would you name it a name which is a measurement of volume? That's number two. Number one. Number two, why does it have to be after Pesach? The day after the first day. Well, we do it on the first day. That's number two. Number three, he says, why was it so important that it saved the entire world again and again and again and again? We got Eretz Yisrael because of Korban HaOmer. Hard to understand that. You ask me what mitzvah Avraham Avinu did. He did Brit Milah. He taught people about Hashem instead of Avodah Zarah. No, the Omer. What does that do with anything, right? So he says like this, a very beautiful thought. No. This is called the Be'er Yosef. He says a very interesting idea. He brings a midrash that says the following. He says, the midrash tells us elsewhere that Hashem tells the Jewish people, when you were in the desert, I gave you Omer la Gulgolet. What does Omer la Gulgolet refer to? The man. Very good.
What?
Man, the bread that came from heaven, that tasted like whatever you wanted. I gave you Omer la Gulgolet. Says the Midrash. Hashem says, in the desert, I gave you an Omer la Gulgolet, which means for each person, each head. A Gulgolet means a head. So for each head of your family members, you got one Omer, right? Okay. So Hashem says, in return, you have to bring me Korban HaOmer. You have to bring me the offering of the Omer, which is the barley offering that we're in the middle of talking about. Says the Be'er Yosef, what is the connection between the two? Because the words are the same. Omer and Omer. Again, the man is called Omer la Gulgolet, that each head gets one Omer. That's a certain volume of man that each person received. So Hashem says, in return, you have to bring me the Korban HaOmer. What is the connection? So he explains a beautiful thing. He says, remember, man was the proof that the Jewish people were being taken care of by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you're living in a desert for 40 years, you never have to plow, you never have to plant, you never have to reap what you sow, you never have to do any work whatsoever. And your food is coming to you from where? From Shamayim, right? So then it's clear to everybody, it's clear to the entire world, as a matter of fact, that your existence is purely from Hashem. It's very clear that you are doing zero and Hashem is doing everything, right? That's the idea, right? You're doing nothing. You're sitting and learning the whole day. Hashem sends you man from Shamayim and you're smack in the middle of the desert where there is no food besides what Hashem is sending, right? So, okay, very good. So now, here's the thing. What happens though is, what does the Pasuk tell us? The Pasuk that we read started off saying, Ki tavo, when you come, el haaretz asher ani noten lachem, to the land that I give you, uktzartem et ketzira, and you start to harvest and you start to plant the field and you take what you grow and all that stuff, then you know what you have to do. The first thing you have to do, the barley that you grow, you have to bring it as a korban to Hashem. What's the idea? The idea is that the message of the man, that everything that you have so clearly has nothing to do with you and has everything to do with what Hashem is giving you, right? The message of the man starts to get blurred, starts to become unclear. Why? Because now when I'm in Israel and I'm working on my farm, so then what it seems to be is that, you know why I'm growing my grains, why I have grains? Because I plowed the field, I planted in the field, I harvested, and I worked, and that's why I now have grains. Had I not done so, I would have nothing, right? So who is the source of my success? Me, the farmer. I did it. I planted and I reaped what I sowed and I got everything because of the work that I did. Says the Torah, before you forget your lesson about the man, which is that the man is what teaches you that every single thing that you have comes to you from Shamayim. It doesn't come to you because of your work. It doesn't come to you because of what you did. You see, there's a difference between the two. Because you get your parnasah from Shamayim. It's just that Hashem decided that the way for you to get your parnasah is that you have to work. Because beze'at apecha tochal lechem, in the sweat of your brow, you have to get bread. But the beze'at apecha is not the reason for your lechem. The ze'at apecha is something that Hashem decided that you need to go through in order to get what He's sending you anyway. You understand? Exactly. In other words, you have to understand the disconnect between why you have what you have, which is Hashem, and the fact that Hashem told you at the same time you have to work. One has nothing to do with the other. which is a very, you understand what I'm trying to tell you? The zata pecha that you have to do is a curse. That it's, you know what it's like? It's like, imagine you have a train. The train is going at a certain speed. It's going to a certain destination. There's a conductor to the train. You have no say in how fast the train goes or where the train goes. What you can do is you can buy a ticket. That's what you can do. So your hishtadlut is you buy a ticket. And that ticket gets you onto the train. Do you have any control over the train? No control. You have no say. The train is wherever it's going, however fast it's going, that's up to the conductor. But you buy a ticket. Your work is the ticket. You understand? So that's the lesson of the man. The man is that you have nothing to do with your parnasah. Zero. Your parnasah is like man from Shamayim. The problem is that when you go to the land of Israel, you'll start to think that you, as famously it says, Kochi ve'otzim yadi asali et hachayil hazeh. That's what you're going to start to think. So therefore, says the Torah Kedosha, make sure the minute that it starts to grow, you get to Israel, it starts to grow, the first thing you do, bring Korban HaOmer. Why Korban? Why do we call it the Omer? Why are you calling it a measurement? The answer is because it's a reminder of the Omer LaGulgolet. It's a reminder of the man, to remind you that whatever you have is man from Shamayim. It's the same man. It's just now you have to work for it. One second, are you absorbing what I'm saying? You follow what I'm saying? So now, says the Be'er Yosef, why do you have to start counting the day after the first day of Pesach? But the Sefer HaChinuch said what Bobby said very nicely. He said, look, we're in the middle of Korban Pesach. It's a celebration. We're remembering Yetziat Mitzrayim. Don't mix two things at the same time. Don't dance at two weddings. One thing is Pesach, start the day later. Valid. But the Be'er Yosef says, look, I think the answer is different. Because we have a tradition. He says, beautiful. We have a tradition that on Zayin Adar, that's when the man stopped falling for the Jewish people. But we have a tradition that they still had leftover until the 16th of Nisan. Okay? They still had enough man left over until the 16th of Nisan, which just so happens to be the day after the first day of Pesach. So now it makes perfect sense. You had man until when? Until the second day of Pesach. So over here is exactly the right time where now you don't have the man anymore. The man was a reminder the whole time that all of your food and everything that you have is straight from Shamayim. Now the man is gone. You don't have any man anymore. The man is over. So now you have to find some other way to remind yourself. So how do you remind yourself? You bring Korban HaOmer and you start counting Spirat HaOmer from that time. Because that time is the time where the man ended. You have no more man. You got to remind yourself, Omer, Omer, Omer. It's all from Hashem. Omer LaGulgolet. Now, I'll finish with one last point, and then we'll take the question. Now, says the Be'er Yosef. So then why is it that we have to do it for think about this question now. He says, why do we say, Hayom Yom Echad LaOmer, Hayom Shnei Yamim LaOmer, Shlosha Yamim LaOmer. What Omer? Again, it's a measurement. But why do you have to say La? You know why he says? You have to count this thing for, if you didn't get the message, you see, if you only do it one night, let's say, so it's in one ear, it's out the other. This message that you have to remember that everything you have is man from Shamayim. So you have to do it on the third day. You have to do it on the fourth day. The fifth day, La Omer, La Omer, La Omer. Why La Omer 49 days? That you should drill it into your head that every single thing that you have is man from Shamayim. So the man that finished on the 16th of Nisan, carry it on by remembering the Korban HaOmer, which the Omer is exactly what they had in the desert, Omer LaGulgolet. That's his explanation. I think that's a beautiful shot. Yes, you have a question. 3 questions. Okay. Yes.
They said if in the midbar, if they pick up some more man the day after, they couldn't eat, right?
That's a nice question. I had the same question. So Mr. Ibrahimi is asking a nice question. He's saying that the Torah tells us very clearly that whatever was left over would spoil. They wouldn't have a chance to eat it. It's a good question. I had the same question. Very nice question. So I think it could be, perhaps, the only thing that I could think of was that maybe by the time Yehoshua took over, it was different. Maybe when Yeshua took over, they got into the land of Israel. It's not the same thing anymore. There was more of a chance. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't have it. Yeah. What? High-tech nation, right? They figured out a way to keep it. Yeah. Yes.
If Hashem tell us to keep Omer in Israel, right?
Yeah.
That means we have to remember Man.
Yes.
So why Hashem intended to out of Israel to do that, to remember the Man?
We had the man.
Here in out of Israel, now in America,
Oh,
we
okay.
don't do it, right?
What do you mean we count Sfirat Omer?
No, we can't say for Omer, but the Omer in Israel, they put the Yashan, they came back Yashan, right?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have to remember the Omer in Israel because we have to remember a man.
So it's
So
an
why
interesting question.
Hashem then tell us to keep that
To
man?
have the laws of Chadash. Well, again, so you should know, many poskim hold that the laws of Chadash do apply outside of Israel. Right? For example, the Mishnah Berurah, Shulchan Aruch, they all say that really the laws of Chadash actually do apply here, and we're relying on a leniency, right? The kashrut agencies rely on a very big leniency. But okay, that's fine. But you have a good point. Some hold that exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
By what you said,
Yes.
we have to say Omer second day of Pesach, right?
Yes.
But why Ishkenazim they don't do it?
They do that.
They like some people they do it for not the same thing as what we do. Some people they don't count exactly the same thing as what.
No, they do. They count the same exact thing. They count the same exact thing. Same numbers. We're together, same number every night as Ashkenazim. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll prove to you. Otherwise, Shavuot for them would be a different day. That'd be a problem. Right. Okay, very good. Yes. So you should know. So you want to hear something funny? We say Eser Zechiot shechayav adam niskor b'chol yom, right? So there you go. So what's on the list? Haman. The man is on the list of 10 things we have to remember every day. You have a good point. That's true. Because we have to remember that the work that you're going to do right now today is just external. Exactly, hishtadlut, because the real parnasah is coming to you from Shamayim. It's just that Hashem decided that you have to do work in order to get it. But one is not related to the other, which is a kind of hard concept to understand. But that's what he's saying. Okay, and I want to just share with you that this concept, Rabotai, really is found later on in the parasha as well. In this week's parasha, we have the mitzvah of Arbat Aminim, the mitzvah to wave the lulav and etrog, which is the same exact thing. It says you wave lulav and etrog. Why do you do so? To get rid of the bad winds and the bad spirits. Again, we go up, we go down, go in all directions, right? What's the purpose of all that? So the Sefer HaChinuch says beautifully, it's the same idea. The Sefer HaChinuch says that Sukkot is called Chag HaAsif. Chag HaAsif means it's the holiday where you gather in everything that you already harvested outside in the field, you bring it into your storage houses, and you see Ben Porat Yosef, I've got a lovely amount of stuff in my silo, I'm good to go for the rest of the year, I harvested, I'm good. And as it says in the Pasuk, Vayishman Yeshur Vayivat, person grows fat, and he says, I don't need Hashem anymore, God forbid. So therefore, at that time, that's exactly the right time where a person has to take an example of all those different things that he grew. Take the lulav, take the hadasim aravot, take the etrog. These are all things that grow in the field. They grow out there on trees. These are produce. You take it and you wave it and you say, Hashem, I know all the things that I have in my silo, all the things that I brought home, they're all from you, Hashem. It's not me. It's not the work I did. It's not any of those things. It's all from you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the whole concept of why we say Birkat HaMazon. Why do we say Birkat HaMazon? Same idea. By the way, the Mefarshim asked this. Why is Birkat HaMazon, which is one of the only brachot that the Torah mandates, right? It's according to most opinions, This is the only biblically mandated bracha that exists, because it says ve'achalta v'savata uverachta et Hashem Elokecha. That's the only thing, right? So why does it say to do it after ve'achalta v'savata, which means you shall eat, you'll be full, and then uverachta et Hashem, then you bless? Why not mandate it, say before? Say uverachta, say make the bracha, then ve'achalta, and then eat. Why doesn't it say, what's the ending? So one of the great Mefarshim, the Meshech Chochmah, Rav Meir Simcha of Devinsk, says beautifully. He says, because when a person is full, he's satisfied, that's where he's most prone to the feeling of, I don't need Hashem anymore. I'm done, I'm good, I have everything I need, I'm finished, right? So that's precisely the moment where you have to remember, no, what you just had right now, it's not you, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to you. So therefore, that's why you have to say the bracha at the end, because of the fact that now you're most vulnerable to the feelings of, I'm good, I'm done, I'm good, I'm satisfied, everything is, now you need to say Birkat HaMazon, because that's where you need it the most, when you have what you need, quote unquote. It's our job to realize that everything in this world is a facade. It all seems like things, but in reality, it's really not that. It seems like everything just runs by itself. It seems like everything, has a certain, you do this, then you get that. You do that. Our job is to look deeper than what meets the eye, and to see that, no, it's not that way. It's all HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving me everything. And that way, you'll hold on strong to your faith. Now we have an understanding. Why is it that Avraham Avinu merited Eretz Yisrael because of the Omer? Why is it that Chizkiyahu was saved because of the Omer? Why is it that there's Shlom Bayit because of the Omer? What's the Omer have to do with all these things? The answer is the Omer is one word. Emunah. It's faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what the Omer means. It's realizing that every single thing that goes on around you, here, there, in front of you, behind you, it's all Hashem. So Avraham Avinu, with his emunah, he said, forget the Avodah Zarah, forget all those things. He had that emunah. He understood the message of the Omer, of the man. So then Hashem says, you deserve the land of Israel. Right? Chizkiyahu was about to get wiped out, but he strengthened his emunah. So Hashem said, you deserve to be saved. And so Gidon, and so on Yechezkel, and so on, everybody that had that strong emunah, which is, the Omer represents that. Hashem said, I take care of you. So really what it is, Rabotai, is a commandment to strengthen your emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when you do so, that opens up all the channels of bracha. You have a problem with this, with that, whatever it may be, by you strengthening your emunah, it opens up the channels. So there's no more blockage. That brings bracha to you. That's what's going on over here. That's the beautiful word from the Be'er Yosef. He explains it very nicely.
The Omer,
what?
Do like this. You do the technique between the lulav and
yes, that's what we read. Ma'aleh, Murid, Molich, Mevi. Yeah. Now the lulav, there's one added thing. We turn, right? We turn. But it says that he would wave it. I believe we said he would wave it for the Arba Ruchot. It says like this: Molich Mevi, Ma'aleh Murid. I believe that he would turn it to other ruchot, to the other direction as well. I'm not sure, but obviously we know that we do that by the lulav. But it's the same concept. It's exactly the same concept. Same concept. Correct. All right, guys, we'll stop over here. Chazakim Bruchim. Thank you very much for joining my son.
Thank you.
Thank you.